As many kids start their college career, whether at home or on campus, the reality of managing one's own eating is all too real. From navigating all the tempting food options to regulating physical activity and sleep, young adults in college have a lot to sort out as they leave the nest or simply take on more independence on the home front. Today, my guest, Joan Salge Blake, is here to talk about this major transition and give us some pearls of wisdom and some motherly advice. We discuss why students gain weight, the freshman 15, the role of stress and anxiety, how to be healthy in college and prevent unwanted weight gain, and how to avoid eating disorders. You're listening to The Nourished Child, a show about child nutrition, feeding kids, and dealing with the ups and downs of raising healthy ones, inside and out. This is episode 119, and I'm your host, Jill Castle. Let's start this party.
Welcome to the Nourished Child Podcast, a show about childhood nutrition, feeding kids, and dealing with the ups and downs of growing a healthy child. Here's your host, registered dietitian and childhood nutrition expert, Jill Castle.
As we look around the news, just to give you an update on what's going on in the world and in the world of food and nutrition and kids, it's all about nutrition programs that feed school-age children. All the headlines are talking about back to school, food and nutrition programs for kids who are food insecure. If you did not get a chance to listen to my last interview, Dale Hayes was on the show talking about this very topic. It's episode number 118. Take a listen. It is super interesting. In terms of the research around our topic today, college weight gain, there have been a few studies that shed a little light that I wanted to sort of preclude this episode with. In 2008, there was a prospective study where the researchers found that about 3/4 of the students in the Midwest gained weight during their freshman year, mostly in the first semester. This was particularly interesting to me because I went to college in the Midwest. Hello, Indiana University. This weight gain, though, continued into the sophomore year, and their average weight gain ranged from 4 to 8 pounds in both females and males. So not quite 15, really 4 to 8 pounds. Then in 2015, there was a meta-analysis in BMC obesity from 1980 to 2014, and they found that 2/3 of students gained weight in their freshman year, and of those who did gain weight, the average weight gained was about 7.5 pounds, and about 1 out of every 10 students gained 15 pounds. So that whole idea of freshman 15 is a little bit of a fluke. Joan will talk with us about that in this interview. On to my personal news. I have returned children to school. Only one of my children this year went back to school. She's living in a house with 3 friends and not living on campus and not even going onto campus for classes. So she's full-time online. And my youngest, who would have started his freshman year on campus, is in an online at-home environment. So it's kind of hard to capture the feelings around all of that. This year is certainly different. It's always a little bit sad for me when I'm sending a child off into the world to spend more time away from me than with me. Sadness, melancholy, memories, feeling that, should have done this, wish I would have done that. But this year is a little bit weird because there's certainly that unknown and uncertainty also around just living in a pandemic. But at the same time, there's also a sense of safety in being home. So I'm wondering, how are you feeling about this back to school time? How is it setting with you and yours? In other news, I am continuing to work on the next book in the Smart Mom's Guide series. It's called The Smart Mom's Guide to Healthy Snacking. I'm almost through with the first draft, which is the biggest step. I thought I would write it faster than what I have, but that's how writing goes for me. I'm always thinking that things are going to take a lot less time than they actually do. I'm a bit of a perfectionistic writer. I edit as I go, which if you're a writer, you know you're not supposed to do that. If you read about writing, you know you're supposed to just do a big brain dump and do all the editing at the end. That's not me. I've decided to embrace the fact that that's not me. So while I edit and write at the same time, it certainly makes the process a little bit slower. But I'm almost through the first draft, which makes me very happy. It is the biggest step, just getting all that content organized and written in a way that makes sense to the reader and conveys all the different points I want to convey. And then the next step will be editing the book as like a whole book. Just as a side note, this time I wrote the book a little bit differently. Instead of one big manuscript with all the chapters and everything, I broke everything out into separate documents. So I had a document for chapter 1, a document for chapter 2, a document for the introduction. So I still have to go through and put all that together and make sure it flows and all that good stuff. But the good news is this summer, I updated my first book in the Smart Mom's Guide series, The Smart Mom's Guide to Starting Solids. That book got a minor update and a big facelift. I decided to brand the Smart Mom's Guide so every book in that series will look like it goes there. And yes, I have a lot of ideas for that series in terms of what the topics will be as I keep writing in that series. I think the next topic I'll write about will be feeding bigger kids. So look forward to that. It will probably take me a few months, so don't get too excited, but that's what's on my brain right now. That's what I'm feeling drawn to write about. And I'm hoping to make it a really good resource for parents because I know a lot of you ask about your children who are gaining weight or who might be struggling with a few extra pounds and what to do about that. So I want to create a resource that's going to be practical and useful and helpful, not harmful. If you want to take a look at what that new book jacket looks like, you can head over to Amazon or to my Instagram account, the.nourished.child, to see the cover. So that's enough about me. Let me introduce my guest, Dr. Joan Salge Blake. Joan Salge Blake is a clinical professor, registered dietitian. She's the author of Nutrition and You Core Concepts to Good Health, and Nutrition from Science to You. She's a professor at Boston University's Sargent College of Health and Rehabilitation Sciences, and she's received the 2020 Media Excellence Award from the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. Joan was an A&D national media spokesperson for close to a decade. She's conducted over 2,000 media interviews and is a nationally sought-after nutrition media expert and speaker. She is also the host of a podcast called Spot On. It's a podcast that covers the latest topics, hijacked from media headlines to give you accurate, usable health and wellness information geared towards college students, soon-to-be college students, or anyone who knows a college student. So let us not delay. Here's Joan. Hi, Joan. Welcome to the Nourished Child podcast.
It is so fun to be here.
Well, you're a podcaster too, so you know how this goes down. This will be fun talking about college weight gain. I have a couple of kids in college right now, so always a pertinent topic. I feel like I've had kids in college for a long time now, actually.
Okay, well, this is interesting because I always thought that you were a bright person. Why would you have more than one child in college at a time?
Because in those younger years, I wanted to get it all over with.
Well, guess who's paying the price now, okay?
I know. And wow, we're recording this in August, and it's a weird time for the return to college. What's it like on your college campus?
It is weird up here in Boston also, but I have to commend Boston University. They are really on top of this with the testing protocols in place. If we wear a mask, wash your hands, social distance, don't do silly stuff, I'm optimistic this can work.
Yeah. When do you go back to campus and everybody else?
Actually, I pop in and out of campus, but classes on campus is September 2, which is before Labor Day. Because Labor Day is a little bit late this year. Then we start in.
Wow. So in your own words, tell the listeners, what you do at Boston University, but also talk about your podcast for us too.
Sure, sure. So I am a nutrition professor here at Boston University, and I teach undergraduate nutrition students. I used to teach graduate nutrition students, but now what I just do for them, the graduate students, is I oversee them in their dietetic internship. And what that is once they take all the coursework to become a registered dietitian, they have to be trained. And we train them here in hospitals in and around Boston. And then they get trained and they take a national exam to become a registered dietitian and nutritionist, and they pass it and they go out and they set the world on fire.
Mm-hmm. And you have a podcast by the name of Spot On, and
Yes.
you really do try to demystify and break down all the myths and misinformation out there for college kids.
Yes, I do. Well, actually, it's Spot On. So it's SPOT on with exclamation point. And so it's available on Apple and all major podcast platforms. I'm going to tell you a funny story how this all came about. So I teach a very large intro to nutrition class for non-majors. In fact, I've written the textbook for the class that's used not only in this class, but globally. So what I do is I start this class of 200 students with current events on social media. What are we hearing that's cuckoo out there when it's related to nutrition and health? And so, of course, what I'm trying to do is get them to search and teach them how to critically think. So I start current events and they'll say, this celebrity is doing this crazy diet. And I'll say, whoa, great. Let's pull it up and let's see what they're doing. And let's critically think, is this sound? Can this really happen? Can you really lose 30 pounds in 1 week? Come on, let's critically think. So what I am trying to do is, they're going to leave me after the class, but I'm trying to give them the critical thinking skills that they won't do anything silly once they leave me. So I've been doing this for years, and all of a sudden, Jill, I'm standing in front of the class, and this light bulb comes off in my head. So while I wrote the textbook, but the textbook is only updated about every few years, and so I can't talk about what celebrity did last week in the textbook, but I can in a podcast. So that's how Spot On got started. So what I'm trying to do is keep the podcast, keep the information current, so that the students can go onto the podcast. And it's a homework assignment, but it's for anybody. You don't have to be in the class. And it's really for college students, those who are going to be college student, or anybody who knows a college student, which is you, Missy. So,
Yes.
you need to be listening, okay?
Yes.
And so what it is really like trending stuff. What is intermittent fasting? Is the keto diet really a diet that, is healthy? Tons and tons of this. And I have to tell you, I'm proud as a little peacock because in less than a year and a half, 45,000 downloads.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, I'm telling you, podcasting is so much fun.
It is.
And, the Nourished Child just turned 4 years old, which I cannot believe it's been 4 years. I remember sitting out on my back patio area and thinking, gosh, I think I might want a podcast. I'd been blogging for a long time. And I thought, well, this is just another creative way to get more information out there to more people. So I'll do this. And lo and behold, 4 years have gone by. I'm going to toot my horn too. And we have over 300,000 downloads.
Wow. That's my
it's
goal
a little
now.
podcast that could. It's persistence and consistency and topics that, people want to hear about. And it's just a great format to educating, helping people understand, especially with nutrition. I think college kids are such a great audience because they are very vulnerable, perhaps even susceptible to hearing some of those fad things that are going on. It's so great that you use it as a forum to help them critically think. And I've been on your podcast.
Yes, you have. You were a very popular one. You were all about, milk, plant-based milk and, cow milk. And we talked about that. And that was quite popular. But what you said is correct. And, when you say 300,000 downloads, well, that makes me I got up and do a little dance, because what that tells us is that the public is thirsty for accurate nutrition and health and wellness information. And I feel that, like you, are doing our job to protect the public protect them from the quackery that could do harm. And so I think when I hear these kinds of numbers from fellow dietitians that have podcasts, it just warms my heart. And I say, yes, we're making a difference. And we are trying to educate and be the place that maybe they'll say, before I take that supplement or go on that diet, let me just check if Jill did a podcast on this or Joan did a podcast on this. And let me just get my facts straight before I go and do that. And if we can do that just by even one person, we've done our job.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. Well, I am thrilled to have you on the show to talk about college weight gain, because I know it's on the minds of students who are entering college. And gosh, I have my youngest, my baby, is going to be a freshman, and he is not going to be on campus this year. But I know that having gone through 3 other daughters who've entered their freshman year, the whole fear of eating on their own, making decisions about food, gaining weight, losing weight, exercising, sleep. Like there's all these things that are coming up for them because they're on their own.
Right.
They're not having anybody tell them what to do anymore. They have to make these decisions for themselves. So, there has been some research on weight gain in college. I know we fondly refer to it as the freshman 15. Is that really a thing? Is it really 15? Or what do we know about weight gain in college students?
Well, I am here, my dear, to give you some very good news. Okay? All right.
Good.
First of all, what the research really tells you that it isn't 15 pounds on average. The average student will maybe gain, on average, about 3 pounds. This is the college freshman, but maybe about 3 pounds over the first year of college. But let me give you some other good information. Those students that didn't go to college, maybe took a year off and traveled, or just decided to go into right out into the business world. Well, guess what? They gain about 2.5 pounds also. So really, when you say it isn't the freshman 15, so the question is, where the heck did this come from? Well, for you, Jill, I have to do my homework. So I went back, and in 1989, an article came out in 17 magazine. This woman journalist wrote it, and she gained 15 pounds during her freshman year. And she talked about this, and she called it the freshman 15. Well, that caught on in the 1990s. That was rampant in the media. So that's how that got started. Not based on research, not based on science, based on just one article. Now, I don't doubt that this woman maybe did that. Okay, if she said she did it, I believe her. But that's not the average. That's not what Joe and Josephine on the street are going to do on a routine basis. And what this proposes, and I've seen this many times, that students going to college, they're worried about so many things. I mean, like important stuff, like how do you do laundry? These are important things to worry about.
This is true.
This is very true. And the issue is you don't need to worry about this. And I've heard this, that they're scared of this, and then they start doing really restrictive behaviors because they're afraid of it. And the good news is, don't be afraid of it, because the science is not there to back it up. So, take a breath, and clearly there are things that you can do, in your adult years, whether you're going to college or not, that are healthier habits to start now at a young adult age, because the earlier you start these healthier habits, the better your chance of bringing them with you throughout your entire adulthood. So That's what I want. Let's look for healthy habits and healthy choices to make, and things to maybe avoid. When I say behaviors where compromising your sleep and things like that are not good for you. So take a breath. It's not 15 pounds. Calm down. Let's talk this out.
Yeah. So that begs the question, though, if it is 3 to 4 pounds on average, based on the research, is this really a reflection of changed habits, or could it be sort of, the end of the pubertal growth spurt and filling out?
I got it. Let's do a controlled study, N of 1. Let's weigh your son today, and let's see what he weighs at the end of his freshman year. Okay? And then you could say, Oh, but you've grown 7 inches. You've got a muscle mass. You're working out. So you just added muscle mass. You've grown. And so that's what happens. A lot of students are still growing. They are adding muscle mass. And for, pre-COVID, you ought to see the gym at Boston University. In fact, I don't even call it a gym because that you're going to conjure up in your mind this little closet. It's called a fit rec. It is a magnificent, magnificent area where students can work out. They got, rock climbing. They got a lazy river. They got an indoor track. They got squash. Oh no, I'm telling you, come up to
lazy
Boston.
river.
Yes, I'm telling you, honey. Why do you think I'm there? So now they get to go to college and have this phenomenal space to really, work out, which is a great stress relief, socialize. And so a lot of them that maybe, weren't fit, start becoming fit, start taking classes, start weight training. So there's a lot going on. And if your college has this kind of a fit rec or fitness center, that means there's a demand for this. So likely a lot of your friends are going to be utilizing it. So you hang out with them at the gym. So, so the odds are you may be, adding muscle mass, which is always a good thing and something we need to be doing all through our adult years.
Yeah, that's a really good point because I think when I think back on my college days, there was a fitness, physical, education center and some people worked out, but it was mostly the athletes and those who had interest. And I suppose, yes, today they're much more invested in the wellness of their students. And so those facilities are available, which is awesome. But if we think about some of the factors that might contribute to weight gain. And it doesn't sound like the weight gain is that big of a deal, but let's talk about those healthy habits and we'll talk about the healthy habits, but what are the unhealthy habits that could happen, could be at play, areas where college students might want to open their eyes a little bit wider and just pay a little more attention to some of those pitfalls that are easy to fall into as a college student?
That's sleep. I mean, that is brutal. And, college students often fall short in the sleep department. And not only is this, not good for your brain. I mean, you're paying all this money and putting all this effort. You have these 4 years to glean all this wonderful information from your professors, your colleagues, and you're sleeping in class. I mean, this makes no sense. So the first thing you want to do is really make sure you get enough sleep so you're able to absorb all this fabulous information that you were going to use later in life during your career. But when it comes to appetite and hunger, and there's a hormonal issue going on here. So if you are chronically getting less sleep than you need, it's going to be, not only the mental challenge, but there's also an increase in hunger promoting hormone called ghrelin, and a decrease in the hunger suppressing hormone in your body called leptin. Well, that's a double whammy. So now you're tired and you're hungry. Now, are you really hungry or are you just exhausted? So let's not, sleep deprive yourself to the point where you can't really make a good judgment whether you should be eating because you're hungry or you're eating because you're tired. So sleep, that's the number one thing, is getting adequate amount of sleep for multiple reasons when you're in college. And what has been good, this whole issue of adequate amount of sleep has gotten a lot of play in the media, which is great. And this has been over the last, several years that we realize how important sleep is. I'm trying to find that silver lining in a pandemic, but one of the things that has gotten better is some people are finding that they can do better sleep because they don't have to travel. So, so maybe, that's somewhat of a silver lining. But so I think getting adequate sleep, and now that's a problem because you're excited and you're in a new place and you want to do everything and you want to hang out and you want to, but you got to pace yourself. And I did a podcast on Spot On called The Top 5 Tips Acing the College Years. And I brought in someone, a senior that was in college, and someone who had just graduated. So I got someone that, the wisdom of a senior looking back and the mistakes he did, and then the wisdom of someone who's out working and, gee, I should have, could have, would have done this differently. And really what they said is, don't like overbook. Don't try to do everything, because what you're doing is you're diluting your efforts. You're diluting it and you're doing nothing. You're doing a whole lot of nothing. So really go and find your passion, follow it, hang out with those people, whether it's a cappella group or fitness or athletics, if you're in it, or anything. Find out your kind of people and hang with them, and don't try to do a gazillion things, because you're just going to end up, there's not enough hours in the day and you're going to run yourself ragged. So pace yourself.
Right. That's good advice. Now, what about, so sleep is an important thing. I think we all struggle with getting enough sleep. And I would agree with your comment about the pandemic. I find myself, I'm getting a good solid 8 hours a night, which is great. And I'm waking up naturally on my own without an alarm, which has been a nice little silver lining to the situation. But if we think about other unhealthy habits, let's talk about eating. Mm-hmm. What's going on with eating in college kids?
Yeah. Well, the good news, I can tell you at Boston University, and I think that this is pretty much, a blanket statement, that the quality of the food in the cafeterias has increased. Jill, when you and I were both 100 years old, so when we were in college, we had like mystery meat. We didn't even know what the heck. Remember this?
Yes.
Yeah. So I can tell you, and I can only speak to Boston University, but I've read articles on this from other dietitians in our papers that we write, that the quality of the food has increased. And I have to tell you, at Boston University, we've got, grilled vegetables, we've got stir fries, we've got, salmon, we've got salmon.
Wow.
Salmon. Who has salmon?
Yes. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, it's a wide variety. There's everything there for anybody. But the point is that it is healthy, delicious food. The option is there and it tastes good. So take advantage of it. And, one thing I always tell the students is not to skip breakfast. Going back to the whole idea is, you're getting up and you want to feed your brain so you can go to class and absorb all the information that the environment has to offer. So let's fuel up the brain so it makes it easier for you to concentrate and do that. So don't skip breakfast. Try not to, skip meals. Go back to breakfast. Wake up and have breakfast. This is you have 4 years where somebody is going to make you breakfast. Like, you can go up to the omelet station and point and say, no, I want this. I want this. I don't want this. I don't want this. Oh, call me when it's ready. You know what I mean? Like, don't you wish you could wake up, Jill, every morning and someone makes you an omelet to order? And cuts up the fruits in the perfect fruit cup. I mean, I would pay tuition just to have the meal plan. Don't waste this. Take advantage of it. And, if you don't want to go in the cafeteria, use your dining points. We have, of course, different eateries all over campus where, get a good breakfast and take it and eat it.
Kids change a lot. Their nutrition needs, eating habits, and food preferences do too. So much so, it can be hard to keep up. The Nourished Child, a website designed for parents who want more nutrition education, helps parents like you get crystal clear on raising good eaters. We've cracked the code on nourishing the whole child, whether you're raising a baby, a teen, or a child with health concerns. Our nutrition school and parent education programs help you get the inside scoop on food and nutrients, positive food parenting, and building self-motivated, autonomous kids who are good eaters. Visit thenourishedchild.com today. What about unhealthy habits around drinking, though? Are those habits that can be contributing to weight gain?
Oh, absolutely. And the weight gain is the least of it. Alcohol use among young people is a leading cause of risk and injury. And so we need to be very careful about that pacing and, doing it, having it correctly. We know that the drinking age in the United States is 21 years of age, but you got to drink responsibly. And I think also that colleges, I know at Boston University, does an excellent job of, when you come on board, to kind of talk about this and what is the dangers of this. And I believe that a lot of colleges are also doing that. Student health centers now are not the student health center that we went to school with. That they were the place you got a Band-Aid and that was it. But now student health centers are really, really empowering students with everything from physical to mental health and support, which it should. So, that could really be a problem if you're abusing it. But once again, there is support on campus should that be a problem. So go to the student health center and say, I'm not feeling good about this. And, can you help me? And, they will help.
Yeah. I'm sure parents who are listening to this episode are probably feeling some level of relief hearing you talk about what's on campuses, because you're actually giving us not only good advice about, healthy habits in college, but you're also sort of giving us that insider's view on what colleges have to offer for students coming in, from, healthy foods in the cafeteria to facilities to exercise to resources around substance abuse. And it's really great.
It is. It's so much different than it was when we went to college. The support system is really phenomenal. And, any parent can get onto wherever university or college their child is going to, go onto the Dean of Students page, webpage on the university or the college. And look at that, because the Dean of Students is really that, looking at what the needs of the students are, and you will be shocked at the amount of outreach that is available for these students.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When you think about restrictive feeding and restrictive eating behaviors, rather, and I think, as my dietitian brain thinks dieting, mm-hmm. and the danger or habits that can be happening around that.
Great question. Just like we have better food, better mental and physical support, should you get sick, working out, many universities have registered dietitians on staff. They're either in the health center, student health center. Well, that's probably the good place to say, do you have one? I can tell you proudly at Boston University, we have a crew of them. We have a Sergeant Choice Nutrition Center, which has, over 7 full-time registered dietitians. And what Boston University does is give every solitary student a 1 free visit with a registered dietitian nutritionist, just for this issue. I'm in college. I don't know what to eat. I don't know how to do it. And sit down, and they will tailor make and help the student, maneuver their way through the college environment based upon, as you all know, because based upon the medical and personal health, because that's what registered dietitians do. We tailor it to their needs. So the first thing, if you're feeling as a student that you want support, seek that out. If you're feeling from a parent that you're feeling that maybe you're getting the text messages from your child that's saying that, gee, I'm kind of lost here, know that this opportunity could quite possibly exist. If they do not have a registered dietitian nutritionist on campus, whatever state the college is in, you can find one. And the best way to do that is to go to eatright.org. And that is the website for the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. And up in the right-hand corner, it's going to say Find an RDN. And if you click on it, it'll go to your state, and you can find a registered dietitian in the state wherever the son or daughter is going to college, and to get some help. And many of them are in private practice. But go through the college or the university first, because this is becoming very, very common, especially if your school has a big athletic program. There are many sports dietitians that help athletes with their conditioning and eating habits to help them better perform.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure about the statistics of eating disorders and on college campuses, but it's really great to know that, there are resources there, and it's a great place to start. My sense is it probably is on the upswing just because of our society and the media and everything, but I don't know. It might not be. It might be pretty steady.
Stress plays a lot of factor in for a lot of people when it comes to food.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, people get stressed. They oftentimes call their two best friends, and that's Ben and Jerry. So, we have to help them, help the public find life outside the kitchen and to better manage their stress. And, we are all going to have stress. With there's stress in college, there's stress out of college, there's stress all around us our whole life. And stress is normal. It's how we learn to manage it. And I like to say is to use this college period with this safety net of resources on campus, such as student health and stress management programs on it, to help you learn how to better manage it. And use these 4 years to learn how to better manage it, because once you get out into your career, the stress is still going to be there. And we just got to learn how to manage it. And you don't want to release your stress in the kitchen. You want to find, more positive ways to release it. And, exercise, if you're feeling wound up, lace up your sneakers, grab your face mask. And, the problem when you're young and you're in college or young in general, you think you're the only one that is stressed in this environment. Everybody else is looking good. Everybody is, handling it great. If you say to people, do you have any stress? And they say, no, I don't have any stress. Well, don't believe them, because they'll lie about other things. So really, everybody's going to have stress. And what you'll find is, if you do this kind of physical way to get it out, you're going to start seeing a lot of your friends doing the same thing. And so it's a community of ways where you're healthfully managing your stress, especially during peak times of the semester, midterms, when the papers due, finals. I have to tell you a project that I've done historically at Boston University for about the least 3 or 4 years because of this issue of stress, is that I bring in therapy dogs onto campus.
Mm-hmm.
And Jill, this is the funniest thing in the whole wide world, because you're going to feel sad because you're a parent. But I bring these dogs in, and they're everything from, lap dogs to like these mountain dogs. It's like a mini horse that comes in here. And I get all these dogs and I bring them into a location at Boston University. And then the kids come in and they circle around the dog. And Jill, if I had $1 for every student that said this to me, is they start petting the dog. And you can just see the stress just coming. You can just see it. It's coming right down. And they're petting the dog, and they don't even realize they're talking. And I'm telling you, this is what they say. I miss my animals. I miss my dog.
Mm-hmm.
I miss my cat. Jill, I have never heard them say, I miss my parents. Never. Never.
Well, that's a little sad.
Never. And I know you feel bad. I know this is hurtful, but they don't miss you, honey. They miss the animals.
Right.
So again, and we're not the only university that brings in therapy dogs. And I've been doing this for years, and the humans that own the dogs tell me that the demand for this kind of bringing dogs on campus has shot up. Like they're booked. Like they can't, there's not enough days in the week around exam time. So again, another, positive way to, release the stress, and to understand that as a parent, you may understand that this could be a stressful time to check in and,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I personally, with my own children, I've always viewed college as sort of that bridge to adulthood. You're not really a kid anymore, and you're not really an adult yet. You're going to cross this bridge called college, and college is a time for figuring it all out. How do you feed yourself? How much sleep do you need? How much exercise is effective or harmful? Who do you like to be around? Who brings out the best in you? Who brings out the worst in you? Figuring things out. That the eating part of it, the nourishing yourself part of it, the taking care of your health and your body part of it is part of it. It's like, I think every college kid has to figure all of this stuff out. So as we sort of frame it in that light, and as we sort of wrap up our conversation here, what sort of tips would you want parents to embody or think about in terms of thinking about the college experience for their kids, thinking about the health of their children? Where can they, guide their kids, and where do they need to back off?
Right. Well, first of all, as a parent, I would explore the website of your university or college to find out what resources are there. So if you get a text and you get the unhappy face, or better yet, this is what happens. My children, well, I used to have two boys in my life. I no longer have two boys. I have two men. But it's still the same because they call me for two reasons. Good news and bad news. There's nothing in between. There's no, hi, Mom, how's your day going? Never. It's either good news or bad news. Okay. And as a parent, we all know, right? You say, hi, honey. And they go, hi. And you're like, oh, no. Versus, hi, Ma, I got a raise. You know what I mean? Like you can, as soon as you hear that voice. So just know the resources that are available. Have them make sure that they're getting their nutrition and wellness information from reliable places. And this is going to be hard because there's so much social media. But again, not to plug Spot On, but this is why I did it. I did Spot On so that as a parent, you could get the real deal that's written by a registered dietitian and, it's based on science. And we know that there's so much cuckoo-ness out there. So knowing your child, knowing the resources that are out there, and to help them maneuver their way, it's going to be supported. And all they want to do is vent. And they know that, they're going to vent for you and you're going to respond in the way that is most supportive for your child based upon your child's unique things. One of the important things, though, is that you're not alone. And it's interesting, Jill. I'm a professor at Boston University, but I am an Italian mother first. So when I see a child that looks a little distraught, and just having a bad day, the mother comes at me. The professor doesn't come out with me. The mother comes out, and I'll see this after class. I'm looking at a student, and boy, he is just not looking happy. And I'll say, Johnny, can you come up here for a minute? And I'll just say, listen, everything okay? You're looking a little, and just get a sense and then help that person say, what I think you might want to do? The Student Center has this great program for stress during blah, blah, blah. Why don't you, Leah, let me get you the number. You know why, Jill? Because that's somebody's child. And I am doing my job of protecting your child when you're not there. This is how I was raised, that we live in a village. It takes a village. So if you saw a kid that fell down off their bike and was bleeding, you would go up and say, oh my God, you're all right? All right, let me call your mother. Let me call your father. Well, okay, all right, calm down. I'll get you. You help. You just don't walk away. And so I can't say this for all my colleagues because everybody's crazy busy, but I can tell you many of us are watching and looking. And because we know of all the resources out there, we are giving that extra mile with the hope that someone's going to do that for my children.
Mm-hmm. So look to your professors as
well.
Right,
absolutely. And I've actually had students that have come up to me and say, Dr. Salge Blake, I am worried about my roommate.
Mm-hmm.
Which is fabulous. And I'll say, really? Okay, so tell me, what's this kind of behavior? And I said, we have a stress hotline at Boston University where you can call and anonymously say, I'm worried about a friend of mine. She hasn't been right for a while and she's not eating or she's not herself. Mm-hmm. And somebody will respond. Mm-hmm. And these are the kinds of resources that are out there. And as a parent, again, do your homework in understanding the safety nets that there. And so that when these situations occur, you can, reach out from afar and know that somebody is closer that can really help them maneuver this.
Yeah, great advice. Joan, this is so good and encouraging. And I hope for parents who are out there listening who may be sending kids off to college or even just starting the online college semester just encouraging words around all the resources that are attached to college. It's not just the academic classes or the social party scene. There's some really good quality resources to tap into. So I thank you a lot for bringing that up into the conversation that we're having today, because I think it will give parents a place to go to should they feel nervous or worried about their child. Before I let you go, though, I really want you to let people know where they can find you, your podcast, and anything else you're working on.
Sure. So I am on social media. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Joan Salge Blake. Salge is Salge. Blake is Blake. That's why I married him, because I'm so sick of people misspelling my name. So that was really the only reason. On Facebook, the same thing. And of course, my podcast, Spot On. I'm in the media that I write for U.S. News and World Report, for Prevention Magazine, and do a lot of media interviews. So if you Google it, a lot of things will come up. Follow me on social media, and if you could get a minute to listen to some episodes of Spot On, I think you enjoyed it, and spread the word.
Yeah, awesome. Joan, thank you so much. It's been great talking to you today, and good luck going back to school.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it, folks. I hope that you enjoyed this interview with Joan Salge Blake. Certainly, if you have a child in college, this information I'm sure you found useful, or even if you know a kid in college, this is probably useful information. Don't hesitate to share this show with anybody that you know who has children who are starting off in college or heading back. What I liked best about what Joan had to say was just her comforting perspective on starting college, her useful connections to all the resources in college, so that if your college student listens to this show, she really kind of gave us a little orientation about everything that's there to help kids make this transition healthfully. From what to expect with eating, sleeping, and other behaviors, to how to navigate college through the lens of COVID-19. I think Joan did a great job of helping us all understand what's on the table, so to speak, as our kids go back to college. In terms of what you can do with this information, as I mentioned, go ahead and share it with your college kid or a college student that you know. But if you are a parent of a student going back to college, here's my advice for you. Don't worry too much. This is a time of figuring things out, and your college kid or relative will. They will figure it out. If you don't have a kid in college, but you have a pre-college child, somebody in middle school or high school, start easing that child into the kitchen to make his own meals and snacks, to start participating in the grocery shopping or the meal preparation, and encourage independence around food decisions. In other words, start giving some of the control that you've had over the years over to your growing child. They will benefit because they will learn how to take care of themselves. As always, thanks for joining me today. If you do enjoy this show, be sure to pass it along to a friend or a loved one. Sharing is caring. That's what I say to my kids. You can subscribe to the show on iTunes or anywhere you listen to podcasts. And while you're there, a rating and a review would be appreciated. Don't forget to give that child in your life, big or small, or even a young adult, a loving squeeze today. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to the Nourished Child Podcast, where the #1 goal is to help you grow a nourished child, inside and out.